Hi, folks. PTR is out. That's awesome. I'm so excited. I didn't know anything about this. We heard rumors. The mainstream people, they absolutely, Zombie Grub knew the changes were coming. They know. But I'm not one of those. So this is the first time I really had a chance to take a look at it. I've been freaking out on Twitter, talking about a PTR tournament I want to run. We'll see. Want to make sure we don't overlap with Wardy, but we finally have changes. I'm really excited about this. I'm actually rather optimistic about what this means. But at first, we got to point out, it's StarCraft. StarCraft is the game that we play right now. Isn't that fun? But, these changes don't look all that big to start. It's, what, 1, 2, 3, 7 units, or 7 units / structures getting changed. But I think this is actually going to be fairly impactful. And first and foremost, the elephant in the room is talking about the Protoss changes. Because that is absolutely probably one of the most impactful things. Outside of GSL Super Tournament, EPT and A, Protoss don't win all that much. Top 4 of IM Katowice was 3 Zerg and a Terran, although one might argue that it's just because Raynor and Cyril and Rogue are that good, regardless of what race they play. But that being all said, let's talk about these changes just a little bit. And the big ones, well, I think the obvious ones here is it means that TVP late game is going to be much easier for the Terran now. The big reason we see these 2.5 base, 3/1/1 +1 stim combat shield pushes are really because the Terran, at least the justification for it, the Terran doesn't want to go even into the late game like against a Protoss, because you get your 4th base up, you get your planetary, 10 DTs blink on it or whatever, then 12 DTs blink on top of that with some charge lots, they kill it off, and suddenly the Terran is dead. So that is really nice, but the big deal is I think we're going to see a lot more flexibility in PVX, because shield battery pushes, they're not as powerful, which actually makes the max backs build even more powerful, because we've started to see some level of shield battery rushes to try to counter that off. Counter shield battery play. Zest does this a lot, Hero does this a lot. So single gate expands in PvP are now much more stable. But also, Voidray rushes against Terran are hopefully a thing of the past right now. 50 energy instead of 100. It means you need double the number of shield batteries to get the same amount of effect, and that is expensive. So I'm really hoping, and also the Voidray nerfs, also massively, hopefully, means that should not be a thing. This actually has a big array of impacts. PvZ ground is not all that weak, really. Now, we want to say, well, look at Zerg's winning everything. Okay, well, sure. But we'll talk about the Zerg nerfs that I think this is going to make this a little bit less likely later. But for now, we're talking about the Voidray. And the fact that the Voidray is just no longer this end-all, be-all unit that everyone gets. And it's like, why would you buy anything else? The Voidray keeps you safe. The Voidray gives you damage. If the Zerg doesn't give enough queens, the hatchery is dead. It's a great unit, all-around unit. Well, making it cost an extra 50 minerals means that you hit that 6 Voidray critical mass, that's base typing thing, that's suddenly an extra 300 minerals. That's almost an extra Voidray right there, maybe a little bit more. And it takes longer to build it, so there's more time to react, more time to make all that happen. Which, again, should, I hope, open up the build orders just a little bit more. We've already started to see Protoss players mess around with, let's play Groundtoss. Creator looked really good against Solar doing that. Showtime's been actually playing a lot of it. So, where you have this incentive to maybe mess around with it a little bit less. And the Queen nerf later on that we'll be talking about. I am extremely optimistic that we will start to see more variability in play, which, while it was arguably balanced, it wasn't fun. No one likes Turtle into Carrier. Protoss players don't like it, Zerg players don't like it, the viewers don't like it. So very, very happy about that. But to make that happen, we got to talk about the Queen nerf for a second, because Queens can no longer transfuse off creep, which is interesting. It certainly means that we're not going to see layer tech or hatch tech queen walks again. I think that is dead. But I think we're going to see some other interesting things. Nidus, of course, the Nidus change does mean that queens can transfuse popping out of a Nidus, which I think is going to be interesting. We may see some OV speed queen walks, but because of just everything being a little bit later, it has to be layer tech now. I do think that we are going to start to see some changes here. The Queen Walks are certainly not going to be as powerful as they otherwise will be. And also, it gives the Protoss player a counter to these queen walks. No longer just queens move in and, well, maybe you hold until their auto transfuses. Now maybe you get maybe you go Robotech and you snipe the creep teamers, or your Voidray snipe the overlords that are providing creep, and then suddenly, okay, well, these queens are not nearly as useful. And I think that is actually going to be rather interesting. If we do see queen walks continuing, I think that is going to be a really interesting counterplay potential to what the Protoss or to what the Zerg tends to do. But of course, moving on, PvZ is now the only match, and PvP is not the only matchup that is really getting impacted here. I'm actually very interested to see how TvZ is going to work out, because we have this Widowmine change, which means that, okay, you get a little bit more reaction time. It means the Widowmine drops into Zerg mineral lines that we saw Cure really dominating Zerg with back in King of Battles 2. That's not, or King of Battles, actually. That's not going to be a thing as much. It means that Zerg has more reaction time in the mid game, which does shore up the Zerg mid game a little bit. It makes the trades just a little bit easier. And also, if we have burrowed Widowmine, speed Widowmine burrow against Protoss, it's less. But we don't really see that against Protoss for the most part. But on the flip side, I am a little bit worried about the TvZ late game, because the interaction that we have right now between Ghosts and Lurkers is a extremely fragile one. It's all about Zerg trying to get damage or being able to run away from the Ghost snipes and getting out of vision before that happens. But of course, scans do invalidate that a little bit. And now there's 0.3 seconds less that the Lurker player has to respond. Theoretically, maybe even 0.6 seconds if you get the snipe right as it's starting to burrow. So that means that those snipes are much more likely to go off, and that is already a marginally Terran favored setup in the late game. It does feel like right now that once the Terran player gets 12 plus ghosts, and of course there's no wrong number of ghosts, it's just you want more and more, but it does feel when you hit that situation, it's just going to be harder for Zerg players to play, which may mean more caveman Zerg, more mid-game Zerg, or maybe swapping back into just pure Ling Bane, something like that as the games go late. I'm not really sure, but I'm kind of worried about the late game high-tech ZVT interaction. I don't really know how that's going to find out, but I think that is the most questionable component of this. But it also does mean that SkyToss is maybe, or Groundtoss is maybe a little bit more viable, because you can jump on top of Lurkers a little bit easier now. Disruptors may be able to get some more connections because they're not going to be able to react as quickly. Things like that. I don't know. And then, of course, while the Nidus change isn't too much to talk about, what it does mean is that queens can pop out and transfuse immediately, which does give them some of their aggressive potential back, and we may see some Queen Nidus plays against Protoss replace Queen Walks. I don't know. We're going to have to find out. But the big takeaways from this patch, I think Groundtoss is going to be more viable because it's no longer Voidrays or this end-all, be-all great against everything. I think TvZ late game is going to be interesting. I'm kind of worried about it, but I hopefully will be okay. I'm going to be interested to see how that works out. And 3, well, Queen Walks, hopefully they're a thing of the past. And if they are not, they're going to be something that we see later. So, those are my takes. Hope you enjoyed. If you like what I do, of course, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. I'm on Twitch. You know what it is. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe.